What if you could take that risk, make that change, reach that goal, live your best life? Welcome to another episode of the What If You Could podcast, where we get together with amazing experts and everyday people who share challenges, encourage healing, and explore the possibilities that life has to offer. I'm your host, Gary Scott, and I'm excited that you're along for the ride. Welcome to another episode of What If You Could. Today's episode is episode 2 with Velma Hagar. Hope you enjoy the episode. Please like, subscribe, send us a message, let us know how we're doing. But in the meantime, enjoy Velma.
I had 200 pair of shoes. So the thing is, oh God, nobody will ever know what I went through. I struggled. You talk about getting up, dressing up, and showing up. I mean, nobody coming in, and I mean, I can remember going 10 days without a sale. I mean, I'm on El Paseo. I'm on El Paseo with this little podunk, shoe store.
Well, people don't realize, people don't know this. Most people don't know this about the desert, but in that time period, basically we would shoot a cannon
down the street,
down El Paseo from May to October.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, you could run cattle down the street. It wouldn't matter because no one was here in the summer.
That's what it was like. Summer. And I'm trying to make a living. I got kids at home. And I'm telling you, Gary, nobody will ever know. I mean, I had one really good trait that came down from my alcoholic dad, who ended up a street person, by the way. He died in the streets when he was 51. But the one thing he left us, he was a professional boxer. And he holds the record today for being knocked down the most times in a professional fight and getting up again. And no one will ever beat him because now they stopped the fight. Nobody will ever take that record away from him.
That's a pretty incredible record.
It's an incredible record. And but I have to tell you, that was what kept me alive. Anybody in their right mind would have quit. I mean, I went for years, literally years. And that house, I want to talk about this house. I lived in that house for 30 years. And I refinanced it 8 times. And every time I got $15,000, the same amount. Every time
it would go up. The same guy at Bank of America.
Yeah, until he disappeared. He finally died. And I wish I could have. I wanted to hug that guy. I mean, he treated me. He gave me a chance. Lou Brandy gave me a chance, and I never did let him down either. I never did. I paid him back, But the thing was, all those years in that little house, 15,000. Every time it would go up a little in value, I'd go get another loan. It was like my child support. I was awarded $300 a month, $300 for 3 kids, which was nothing. I got one time $300. That was it. And now you say to me, why didn't I go get him in court? Right? Because he was a retired deputy and he had a retirement pay and the whole works, right? So I got to tell you this story. So here I am and my kids are young and I'm crying and I'm saying, I'm going to sue your dad. I'm going to take him to court. I'm going to have his ass thrown in jail. And they're all crying. All 3 of them, they're crying. And going, please, Mom, please don't hurt Dad. Please don't hurt Dad. And I'm saying, what about me? And they're crying, please, Mom. So I hung my head and I said, all right, I won't hurt him. And I made a decision at that moment that I was not going to hurt their dad. It was for them. And I'm going to tell you one of the best decisions I ever made in my life right there. I decided not to hurt their dad. And that's where God came in and helped me for doing that. I knew it was the right thing. You see women today, they want to destroy men because they're divorced from them, and they do destroy them. It's awful. And
society in general now wants to destroy men with toxic masculinity and all this other crap. Society is trying to get rid of men anyways. But
the best thing I ever did was make that decision.
Now, they seem to have liked their dad. Did they at least go spend time with him?
Let me tell you, Bob was a very personable. He and I ended up such good friends. I mean, I loved him like a brother when it was over. I loved him in my heart all my life. I mean, that was the love of my life. I mean, I was crazy about him. He broke my heart. He broke my heart. But you know what I did is I put up a facade and I went on with life. It was all I could do. And I accepted the women he brought. Every time we had a family function, he would parade a woman through the house, a different one with blonde, with big boobs, you know. And one day, as my boys, they loved him. My oldest son was very mad at him, very indignant, and he finally told him, we're sick of you bringing these women to our home. If you got one woman, you can bring her, but we're tired. He finally, as the boys grew up, they got real firm with him. And in the end, he ended up getting married. And interestingly, well, I got to back up because I got to tell you the story about how I got where I'm at. I'm at Ironwood Country Club, and I had this dream back in the day when they first start building Ironwood.
But you're in Ironwood Country Club now?
Ironwood Country Club. Okay. And they're starting to build up here. Now, remember, I'm here when there's nothing, and so I'm watching all this.
Beautiful for anyone who doesn't know the desert. Ironwood Country Club sits in this cove in this beautiful
at the foot of the hill,
alluvium fan kind of cove.
Yeah,
the most incredible mountain views and down valley views, and it's a massive development. I mean, you've got everything from one bedroom little places all the way up to mansions,
multi-million-dollar
Ironwood Country Club's a spectacular place.
It really is,
and the location's irreplaceable.
Yep, the club above the rest. And so to me, this was my dream. Now, here I can't even make my $300 payment, but in my heart, I'm going, I want to live up there. I want to live up there so bad one day. This was my dream, right? And I want to live on a golf course. I want to be on a golf course. I want to have a golf cart. I have all these little dreams. So here I am working this little shoe store, and I worked this little sucker 660 square feet. And I began to kind of max it out, like you can't, how much volume can you do in 660 square feet? Well, my kids now are getting bigger and they're getting wiser. And my one son, oh my God, he really came alongside of me, almost like took his dad's place when his dad left. He was only 15, but they came alongside of me, my kids, all three of them. And he comes to me one day and goes, Mom, you got to move. You can't stay in this shop because you've maxed it out. You can't do any more here than what you're doing. And I said, I don't want to move. I'm always just, give me something to do and I will max it out. I'll just keep doing it till you tell me to stop, So he gets me by the hand and he walks me down the street and he goes, look at this shop right here. This is it was like 200 or 2,000 square feet or maybe 2,500. So anyway, to make a long story short, he gets me to move down the street. And I ended up, it was crazy what happened. It was like little by little, I became the most popular shop on El Paseo. There was no doubt about it. I was swamped.
What was the name of the shoe store?
Well, I had Cactus Flower shoes, first of all, and I had Hagar shoes for men. I had two. I had those two. But Cactus Flower shoes was so popular. It wasn't high end. The shoes were around $100, and I retired 10 years ago. So now the shop is still there, only it's called Sonia's now, and she's cut it down in half. She doesn't have as big as I did. But so now, remember this struggle that I had gone through and how every year, $4,000 from the bank, and every year, $15,000 I could get on whatever I could get on my house, And so little by little by little, you talk about amassed little by little, one day. And so now I decide I'm going to try to get a house up at Ironwood Country Club, one of those little 2-bedroom, 2-bath ones, only 1,100 square feet. And so to make a long story short, I actually hit 5 out of 6 on the doggone lottery. The lottery was just come out, and I only had to put $20,000 down on the house here. And I got it for $100,000. It was $100,000. And because everything had dropped down, I don't know what year it was. I was 52. So it's been, anyway. And so I come up here and I tell him, I can only spend $100,000. That's all I have because, I knew what I wanted to plan my retirement. I was a woman alone and I didn't want to do anything stupid. And, so the guy lets me to get the house for $100,000 and I give him $20,000 down. And my payment was under $1,000 a month. Anyway, and I'm at Ironwood Country Club. I'm telling you, I sat out on that patio and I just bawled. I thought, my God, I made it. So now one day, here I am. I'm driving down El Paseo and I'm headed up to Ironwood Country Club. And I've got this ring on my finger. I'll tell you another way how I got it one day. And I'm driving a brand new Mercedes. I got a brand new 300 now. And I'm driving down the street and all of a sudden this revelation. And I went, oh my God, I made it. Alone in this Mercedes. And I'm going, oh my God, I made it. I did it. I did it. I literally did it. I mean, what if you could? I did it. I climbed that doggone ladder, Gary, and I'm telling you, it was like a rope ladder.
It was more like one of those fake ladders at the amusement park that you're never going to be able to make it up, right?
Oh my God. I mean, when I think about it, and if I would have known then what I know now, I would have never tried to do what I did. Because even when that banker said to me, the other words he gave me were, "There's no way you'll ever make it in business. The odds are so against you." I mean, and I thought, I know I'm there, but I mean, I did. And so years later, he did see me, and he knew I was really doing well by this time. I mean, I went right to the top. I went right to the top, Gary, with no working capital, no husband, no child support. And one day my brother, Sammy, says to me, Velma, you are really a success story. And I go, me? What about you? And he goes, yeah, but he goes, most women in your position would have gone and got welfare. They would have never been, what you did with no help? He went, no, you're a real success story. And I only tell you this because I want people to be encouraged. You don't have, I had a high school education. I'd never worked for anybody in a retail store. I'd never even worked for anybody. And I go to buy one. When I go to that shoe store, I remember the people would come in and they would say words to me. I'm trying to fake it, right? Because I'm a good salesman. Right. And I'm trying to sell one of these 200 pair of shoes I got. And they say, my metatarsal hurts. And I'm thinking, I wonder what a metatarsal is. And of course, we didn't have Google, I don't know nothing. They know everything more than I know. Right. So I get this one shoe company. Oh, God bless them. Another people that gave me a chance in business. They were called the Magdesian brothers. They were Armenian, and the family, and I one day I'm ordering my shoes and they really treat me nice. So I say to the sales rep, I said, Joe, could I pick your brain? And he said, sure. What do you need? I said, I don't know anything about shoes. And he goes, no kidding. He goes, no kidding. He said, you should have seen us down at the factory. We're going, look at how this woman orders, but she's selling them, she's so they shipped me the shoes. They gave me credit. They were so kind to me. When I look back, there were certain people in business that were willing to trust you, and I owed Art Magdesian at one point $50,000. And he said to me, Velma, I never thought you'd pay me back. I never did. And I paid him back. I got him. I worked it. He said, I'm going to take a chance on you. I'm going to ship these shoes to you, but you better not. The same thing like Lou Brandy. I never let him down. I paid him back. But anyway, I want people to be encouraged because it can be done. And I think,
well, that's the whole thing. The premise about, I had a different podcast called Grief Pie, like I told you about,
yes,
two guys sharing grief one bite at a time about men who've lost a spouse to cancer. And it was sad. It was tough on people. So when I wanted to do something else, I just wanted something so uplifting and inspirational. And
yeah,
when I was doing coaching, I'd always ask people, all right, well, why are you doing this? What's your end game? What do you want out of all this? Because to do it right, it's not going to be easy, right? It's work. And so they would tell me this and that, but I can't do this. And I said, well, what if you could?
What if you could?
Right. And see, you're a what if you coulder.
I am.
Because you've never sat back. I'm sure you did. I'm sure you had those lonely moments where you said, I can't do this anymore, right? But I mean, on the whole, you were always like, all right, Velma, like you said, I'm going to get up, I'm going to dress up, I'm going to
show up,
and I'm going to do this shit. I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to go in and get that loan. I'm going to go talk to this guy. I'm going to get these shoes. I'm going to sell this stuff. I'm going to live in Ironwood. I mean,
somehow I'm going to do this.
Always,
somehow.
what if I could? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it was amazing.
Let me ask you something about your inspirational things that you've written down forever and sharing them with your family and sharing with your friends and stuff. I have found you to be a very spiritual, we could say religious person. There's nothing wrong with saying religious
No,
person. I mean, I don't
it's
know
not
why
religion,
people
though.
think,
It's
but
not religion.
you do mention, you do say, I don't want things to be too preachy or to come off
Mhm.
as preachy. And
They run
I
from
love that.
yeah.
I respect that because it's sad to say, but people will close off if they
They
think you're
will.
preaching to
Oh,
them.
they do.
Right. So
Sure.
for
Yeah.
everyone to miss these messages, it's just like my wife is in recovery for 21 years, right?
God
And when I
bless her.
met her, I didn't know have a clue about AA. Now I know everything about AA,
Thank God for AA, huh?
right? And we have a bunch of these devotional books and these, day by day books laying around. And I think they're the greatest thing,
They
that
are.
that
They
you've
are.
you've done. So
Gary, my heart, I'm not religious, but I am a fanatic about Jesus, and he's in my heart. Jesus is in my heart, and everything I do, I acknowledge God. Now, I did not start out with that. As I told you, I got down on my knees and yelled, "Help me." That was the beginning. That was just the beginning. But it was so when I was 35, Bob left. When I was 41, I asked Jesus to come into my heart, and I was still struggling. I struggled for 10 years with that shop. I was in business for 10 years before I ever knew if I was making it. I really thought I was pushing money around. I was like, I was pairing, just pushing money around and making it work. And then one day it took off. But for those first 10 years, so 6 years after Bob left, my girlfriend came to my house, and her and we boogied around. And like I told you, I did that because my heart was so broken. I was out there trying to, I don't know, ease my heart, looking for love in all the wrong places. But
yep.
anyway, and she comes to my house one day and she says, I'd gone to high school with her, and she walked in and she looked really pretty. She'd moved away to Montana, came back to visit me, and she walks in and I think, gosh, she looks really pretty. And she starts crying. She says to me, Velma, I want you to sit down. She goes, we've been together all our life. And, you and I, we went to Catholic church together. And I know you believe in God, but you have to do this. You have to make Jesus your Lord. And I go, okay, I'll do it. I mean, I'm crying because she's crying, I'll do it. And so she has me pray what they call the sinner's prayer, you know. Okay, I'll pray it. So I pray the sinner's prayer with her, and then I just pop right up and say, all right, you want to go have cocktails now? I mean, nothing changed, nothing. I did it, and and then
Praise the Lord, pass the
pass
limoncello.
the, yeah, glass of lemon jello. And so, but I did it, and then she leaves. And after she goes, it was like it was for me, it began to, the seed took root, and I started like, I don't feel like going out for cocktails anymore. I don't want to, I just didn't want to do the same things anymore. And I slowly began to, she'd forgot her Bible at my house, and it was a living Bible, which is a real, like a kindergarten beginner, but it was really good. And I decided it's summer at the shoe store. I'm going to read that thing while I'm here. And I read it from beginning to end. I ended up reading it I read different versions every time, but I read it 13 times from beginning to end. And by the time I was done, I was like, it's to me, it's my life now. So as you know, I'm a chaplain now. I'm an ordained minister. I mean, I still have a lot of fun in life. I just do. But everything goes back to God, everything for me. Yeah. So I am definitely not religious, because religion is what killed Jesus. Religious people can be very judgmental but I am definitely, Jesus is in my heart, and I'm a Christian. And so I mean, that to me, everything in my life starts off with that. And
Is there a local church that you go to?
I go up to this little tiny church. I've been to several different ones over the years. I've been a Christian now for 41 years. I came at 41, and I've been 41 now, 41 years. So I wandered around in the desert for 40 years like the Jews did. That's what I tell everybody. I wandered around for 40 years without the Lord. And then I've been out here now for 41 years. And I go to it's right here on the corner of Fred Waring and Portola. It's
Oh
called
yeah.
Valley
Oh
Christian
yeah.
Assembly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's a
That's where
little
we vote.
church. Yeah, very good. And that, so it's a little church, and I just love it. And so
Yeah.
that's where I go. I did go to Southwest, the big church.
Yep.
I went there for 10 years, but they closed during COVID. And I'm a non-vaxxer, and I didn't believe that we needed to, stay in our house. I was one of them. And so I wanted to go to church, and the only church I found was Little Valley Christian. They had it out in their parking lot. And so I just started going there because there was nowhere else to go. And when everything opened up, I said, you know what? I like this church. I'm staying here.
I'm
So,
staying. And
yeah.
isn't it horrible that they closed the schools and the churches, but they left
The
open the
bars.
marijuana
Yeah,
stores,
yeah,
the
yeah,
liquor
yeah,
stores,
yeah, yeah,
Walmart, Home Depot, and then they chased down anybody who wanted to have services and things like that.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so evil. It's so wicked bad.
It was
I'm
wicked.
not
It
very
was.
religious at all, but I do have a deep spirituality to me. And I remember where it kind of came to me is on Highway 74. There's the two big churches side by side on Highway
Yep.
74. You know the
Yep.
ones I'm talking
Yeah,
about, right?
I do. Yeah.
One of them, I don't even know the names of the churches. I don't
Yeah.
even know
Yeah.
the name of this
St.
place, but
Margaret's is one of them. I know that. I don't
yeah,
know.
so
Yeah.
I used to live in the mobile home park on right underneath
Yeah.
Cape
Yeah.
Norm
I
on the
know where
top
it is.
of Highway
Yeah.
74.
Yeah. Indian Wells, or the Indian Creek
Something
mobile
like
home
that.
park.
I don't
Yeah.
remember it now. It was like it
Yeah.
was 1984. And I was in a real bad place in my head, right? And they have a little a little chapel in the
Chapel.
parking lot.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
Yeah, I do. I know right
Yeah,
where it is.
okay. Well,
Yeah.
now it's real fancy because I went
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
little while ago, but
Yeah.
it's real fancy. But it was just basically just a garage. It was like a carport.
Yeah.
I was driving home one night and I just was in just such a bad place and I saw it and I pulled in there and I got on my knees in front of
Oh.
the altar there and I just started crying, and
Oh.
talking, and just say, God, I cannot be this
Uh,
screwed up. I'm
yeah.
not this screwed up of a person. I mean, my life is just bad, right? So I would stop by regularly, like every night. In the restaurant I worked at,
Oh.
Wally's Desert Turtle, they'd have events and they'd leave flowers. So I'd take the flowers and drop them off there on
Oh.
my way home. Well, sure enough, uh, not too much later, that was October of 2000 of that was October. I remember how it happened. That was October of 1984. I just moved back from Hawaii. I didn't want to, but I forced myself to come out. February of 1985, I met my wife, who changed my entire life. I walked into a travel
Oh.
agency and I saw April, and I just said, "That's the woman I'm going to marry." She was
Praise the
18, I
Lord.
was 20, and we were together for 28 years until she died of cancer.
Oh, that's how that was
Yeah,
hard.
so that little chapel going in there,
Mm.
that was, that's when I gave myself over and just said, "Listen, I can't do this on
Yeah,
my
well,
own."
that's the thing. When you find out what God can do for you, and so many times we find him in our weakness, he's made strong. There's a scripture that says that, in your weakness, I'm made strong. And so that's what happened to me too, in that weakness of Bob leaving me and trying to take care of my kids. And, yeah, there was nowhere else for me to go but to him. And I did go. And then the more you learn, the more you realize, you go, what a bozo that you don't take advantage of this. Oh, Gary, it's so real. There are over 6,000 promises in the Bible. 6,000. How many do you know? And yet there's a word in there that says, bring me in remembrance of my word. Now, how are you going to bring him in remembrance of what he promises if you don't know what it is? He tells you, you have to tell him, this is what you said, God. You promised to me that I will be like a tree planted by the water. You promised me, Lord, that I will have everything I need. You promised me, Lord, that no weapon formed against me will prosper. You promised me, Lord, that all the days of my life I will walk in divine health. I mean, all those promises. And he tells us to remind him of them. It's like if your parents left you an inheritance and they said, but you got to go up 111 and you got to turn north, south, or you got to turn west and you got to go towards Palm Springs and you got to go to that little bank over there. You got to go in and get your money. You go, well, I don't want to go that way. I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to turn right and go towards India. Well, you're not going to get what you have coming. And so this is the same thing with God's word. The more, the one nice thing about getting old is that you get smarter. And
the really nice thing about getting old is that you get old, because April died at 46.
I mean,
so she did not get old.
No.
And when I hear people complain, like my mom is currently, I'm
old
too old. I'm like, you're never too old.
How
that
old
is
is
a
your
gift.
Mom? She's probably
88.
my age.
My mom's 88.
God bless her. Is she still able?
No, she's way too able. I'm like, Mom, you don't understand something.
She's able.
Here's the deal for you, all right? You keep saying you want to go because you're tired and you're bored. All right, but here's the deal. She was a hostess at Wally's for 35 years.
What was her name? Don't I know her?
Yvonne Scott. She was a hostess there for 35 years. And if you ever went into Wally's, you saw my mom. You couldn't help it.
Yvonne.
But she had a purpose. She ran that restaurant. She got up, and I go, when COVID happened and they closed down, she no longer has a purpose. So I'm like, Mom, you don't understand. You're 88.
Yeah.
But you're totally healthy. You're going to live another 10 years. So you better figure this out, right?
Well, you do need
a hobby or a boyfriend.
Need a purpose. There's no doubt about that.
You better do something,
but there's so much to do.
Well, that's just it. See,
send her to headquarters with us. We'll get her busy.
You get up and do your stuff, right? And since she's lost Wally's, she ran the thing, right? She is sharp as a tack. Do not tell her that you're going to call her 3 Thursdays from today at 1:27.
You'll remember it.
Because if you do not call her 3 Thursdays from today at 1:27,
praise God.
No, so she's healthy as a horse. She's got all her teeth. I'm like, Ma, you just need a purpose, right? And so religion gives people a purpose.
It sure
writing gives people a purpose. Having something to work for, to love, whether it's a dog,
Gary.
Right? I work with a lot of people. I deal with a lot of people who lose pets, right? That's one of the grieving things that I do is pets. And I'll tell you, people who lose a pet at 18, 20 years in.
I know.
It's wicked bad.
I know.
I've seen people whose husband have died that they're not as in pain as when they're
You're so right. You're so right. But, let me tell you something, because this is something I have learned. You have to replace things right away. My Nala died, and the very next day I went and got Guido. Not because I was disloyal to Nala, but why would I want to just sit around crying about Nala? I love Nala with all my heart. I cried over her, but the next day I got up and I went over to the pet store and I got Guido. And you know what? It takes the sting out. It takes the stinger out when you do that.
Yeah.
It's like
what's interesting about what you said is, and when I work with people who are grieving, and who, through my last podcast, I had so many people calling me to share, hey, you guys are sharing so much and I want to share. And the thing is that people have a challenge getting over is what you said. It's like, I sometimes feel like if I move on, I am dishonoring that person.
That's what they feel. That's what they feel.
Forgetting that person, right? Or for some reason, I'm not honoring their. And it's like, no.
It's not true.
You will always love them. You will always honor them.
Yep.
But you still need to move on as your life.
Yep.
That doesn't mean that you no longer. So exactly what you said is so true.
Yep. Gary, I finally, after all those years, which is another whole story I'm not going to go into, but I stayed single for 24 years and I was done. I said, I don't want to date anymore. I'm done with men. I balanced out in life. I didn't have anxiety anymore. I had no more fears. I had made it in business. I made it to Ironwood Country Club and I was finished with dating. I thought, men just brought pain into my life. I'm done with them. I made it by myself. I don't even need them. Well, doggone if God didn't send me somebody from my teenage years, somebody I went to high school with, and his wife and I were best friends, and I was the maid of honor at their wedding. and she died. And I loved him as a friend all my life. He was one of my favorite people. So when I was 59, here comes Phil Otterman. Like, you talk about, a rescuer on a white horse. Oh my God. And he comes into my life, and I had the desire of my heart, finally, this marriage with this guy. Oh my God. We fell in love so, it was the sweetest thing you've ever seen. And he lived 12 years right to the day of when we got married. He died 12 years later. He was not sick. He was a military man for 35 years, and he had mesothelioma in his lungs. And he was never sick with it. Apparently he'd got it when he was 18. He joined when he was 18, but he died 7 months after we found out he had it. But I'm telling you, those 12 years, oh my God, were the most beautiful years of my life. So from 59 until 73, I had him. And then here I am again, back to I'm all right. I know how to do this, Scott. I know how to be alone, and I've just gone on with life. I definitely grieved over Phil. Oh my God, I'll still have days where I could cry, thinking of him, but you just got to get on with it. I can't stand it when I see people, they've been gone for 10 years and you're still sitting around crying. Get on with it. You've got to get up, dress up, and show up. I just got up and started going again, and
Thanks again for joining us on another episode of What If You Could podcast. Please subscribe, like, share, and give us any feedback. We'd love to hear it. And remember, if you can dream it, you can do it. See you next time.